We go.
Okay, so I'll do a share screen. So yeah, today, like I say, I might be only 90% today, so have mercy on me. So the title of this is, is this showing okay where my screen is?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so the title of
Yes.
today's deal is Deception, and my people love it so. So today we will look at how the media and politics work together to deceive God's people. And so, as always, you don't have to believe everything that I teach or anything that any other teacher teaches, but the Bible does say we should be persuadable. So you try to hear, and if things line up, then you say, okay, I can see that, and if not, then you don't have to see it that way. Jeremiah 5:31, the prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests bear rule by their means, and my people love to have it so. So it's almost as if God is speaking in frustration here that the prophets prophesy falsely, and his people love it that way. In the scriptures, we are told that lawlessness and deception will increase in our time. And we sure see it happening day by day. Is it demons getting released out of the pit or what? There are a few scriptures that talk about demon hordes, being released. And there does seem to be some things going on. Matthew 24:11, and many false prophets shall arise and deceive many. This word for false prophets, it's one word, it's pseudo. I think we get the word suede from, isn't suede like false leather? I could be wrong on that, but this pseudo is kind of like false in the Greek. So pseudo prophetess, and shall deceive many, it says. And so a pseudo prophetess is one who acting as part of a divinely inspired. So they're acting the part of a divinely inspired person or prophet, but they utter falsehoods. And so we're going to be coming more and more into that, the Bible says, out ahead of us. And we will need great discernment because there will be many deceptions and many false lying wonders. This verse occurs after right after the rapture, Revelation 12:9, where the great red dragon was thrown down to the earth, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. So that's like his moniker, that's what he's known for, is deceiving not just America, but the whole world, or not just the whole world and not America, but everybody. And he was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him, his fallen angels. And the timing of this verse, this following verse, is just before the rapture. So this deception is happening before and after. 2 Thessalonians 2:9, that is the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders. And so here's this word for false again, pseudos. So it's like, and wonders false, or and I'll read verse 10 and 11 of 2 Thessalonians. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God will send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. And we know in the Greek that is actually the lie. So there's a coming lie that is going to be so bizarre, but the people are going to believe it. And I got a feeling it's that the Antichrist is Christ returned, but we'll see. So there is a holiness that goes along with the truth. Ephesians 4:24, and we spend a lot of time in Ephesians. It's where we come into the image and likeness of Christ, and we grow in love, and every member, joined one to another. And verse 4:24 says, and put on the new self, which in the likeness of God has been created in righteousness and holiness of the truth. So that's kind of interesting. I hadn't seen that before, but it's like there's a certain holiness of the truth. Verse 24, wherefore putting away the pseudos, so the false, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. So there's that, body of Christ. We're members one of another. And then back to Matthew 24, where it was talking about false prophets arising. Verse 12, and because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. And this word for grow cold is to be extinguished. So it's kind of like the 5 unwise virgins whose lights went out. We're warned, keep oil in our lamps so we don't grow cold. But this lawlessness, we're seeing it just be brought in so many different ways. And it's not just here in America, but across the globe. Lawlessness, and this word for increased means abounding. It's abounding, it's multiplying. And because of that, most people's agape, so that's speaking of God's love, most people's agape will grow cold or be extinguished. And this is another important part of this verse, is that because lawlessness is increased, it actually says the love of the many. So you see here, this is the article, the love of the many will wax cold, the love or be extinguished, the love of the many. So you see, the many is usually a larger group, similar to the woman in Revelation 12, who is the larger outward group. And then there's a hidden child, that comes out of the woman in Revelation 12. But the woman makes the wrong, the outward church makes the wrong choice and flees into the wilderness after her son is born, when the devil comes for her son. So that's going to be a scary time to be connected to the son, because the devil is going to have his full sights set on the son. But remember, it's the son that is caught up to God, the Bible shows. So 2 Thessalonians 2:3, we're admonished, let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come. So this is talking about our gathering together and our catching away, the rapture, in other words. And it's saying, don't be deceived about this, because the apostasy has to come first, where there's like a big falling away. And I think that ties right in with the love of the many being extinguished because of the lawlessness that's flooding in. But that rapture won't come unless this apostasy comes first and the man of lawlessness is revealed. So there's going to be a hidden revealing of this man of lawlessness to those who have spiritual eyes to see. So we need to always be praying for discernment, because when you go through this, and I've done that other times, you see there's a double revealing. There's one revealing of the Antichrist where everybody knows it, where he comes out outwardly, but there's another revealing where a lot of people think he's the Christ, but others are saying, no, this is the man of lawlessness. Verse 7, for the mystery of lawlessness. So that's another amazing, interesting thing, is this is a mystery, this lawlessness. How is this lawlessness being poured out and just flooding across the globe? Well, this mystery is already at work, only he who now restrains, and that's talking about the one that is caught out, is restraining until he is taken out of the way. And so, and then that's when the devil has his 42 months. Once the man child, the restrainer, is taken out of the way. Hebrews 1:9, thou hast loved righteousness and hated lawlessness. So that was something about Christ. He hated lawlessness. Therefore God, thy God, hath anointed thee with the oil of gladness above thy companions. And this is a good verse for showing that Jesus had a God. So, speaking to Christ, therefore God, thy God, so there aren't two gods, thy God has anointed thee with the oil of gladness. 1 John 3:4, everyone who practices sin also practices lawlessness, and sin is lawlessness. So I'd like to show a couple YouTubes, if you don't mind, because this young lady here is just an amazing researcher, and she has this interview that's what's coming is worse than a crash. And so I'd like to show you that. I think it's only about 10 minutes, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, now I want to share screen, and I remember you got to do something tricky here. Yeah, share sound. And so once I hit this, let me know if you can hear the sound. Somebody give me a thumbs up. So this is Whitney Webb. She's just, as I say, an amazing, I forget what the word is, but like journalist or writer.
There's like this particular group. It's a public-private partnership.
Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's only 10 minutes, but I think you'll find it's really worth it.
It's housed within the World Economic Forum, the WEF, but the main, I guess, groups that compose this partnership are the FBI and the DOJ and the Secret Service, Israel's one of their security agencies, and the UK National Crime Agency, and then a bunch of banks.
So she's saying that all these groups are intertwined with the WEF, Klaus Schwab. And we've studied, we've looked at Klaus Schwab a little bit, but I'll let this play more.
Right. And then a few tech companies here and there. I think Palantir, maybe it's PayPal, Microsoft. I mean, some of these big guys are there. And basically, they're led by a former Israeli spy named Tal Goldstein that used to develop a lot of really crazy policies for Netanyahu. And Jeremy Jurgens, who I guess is number 2 at the WEF after Klaus Schwab, at the big WEF meeting earlier this year, was like, yep, big giant cyber attack before 2025. And, you know, the part of the WEF-PAC, the Partnership Against Cybercrime, that's the DOJ and all of these guys, say that it's going to be a cyber attack on the banks.
So just something for us to be thinking about. You know, if this is true, you know, then they're going to, oh, golly gee, those mean Russian hackers or those mean Chinese or mean Christian, who knows who it'll be, did a cyber attack, and instead of us being trillions in debt, now we don't know who owes anybody what. You know, everything's been shut down because of these hackers. So this is the info that she's getting as she reads through their documents and does this research.
Isn't that convenient that like the banks can just be like, oh, well, we've collapsed, but it wasn't our fault. It was the fault of these nasty hackers. And I'm sure the hackers will be Hamas and Iran. You know, they can blame anyone.
In recent discussions, Whitney Webb shed light on a public-private partnership housed within the World Economic Forum, composed of major global entities like the FBI, the DOJ, the Secret Service, several Israeli and UK security agencies, alongside a cadre of banks and tech giants, including PayPal and Microsoft. This coalition, allegedly spearheaded by a former Israeli spy, T. Goldstein, has forecasted a significant cyber attack targeting the banking sector by 2025. This prediction hints at a narrative where financial institutions could deflect blame for economic failures onto cyber criminals, potentially manipulating geopolitical tensions to their advantage. If you find this content enlightening, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like the video to support our channel.
I'm going to fast forward here
Vault 7 and WikiLeaks, right? The CIA has the ability to frame literally any government it wants or any group it wants for a cyber attack, and the CIA lost control of those tools, hence WikiLeaks obtaining them and publishing them. And, you know, anyone can do it. Anyone can blame anyone. So it's very difficult to attribute. And even if you look at headlines about cyber attacks that have happened over the past several years, it's usually a cybersecurity company that, if you look on its website, was created by In-Q-Tel, the CIA, or it was created by Israel's Unit 8200, which is Israel's like NSA equivalent. And they're saying stuff like, high probability that it might have been these guys, and our proof is that we don't have any proof, but it looks like something they might have done before. We think they did before. I mean, it's just like, there's no evidence for anything, but out of, you know, that googly-guck, you get a headline that says, Chinese hackers responsible, you know, or, you know, Iranian hackers responsible. And that's all people see and read, right? There's this whole group of the big banks that's very secretive, and it's affiliated with WEF-PAC, and they have been gaming this out since like 2021 or so. It's a FS-ISAC, the Financial Services Information Sharing and Analysis Center.
Yeah,
and they collaborated with the European Central Bank, the Fed, the Carnegie Endowment, that at the time was run by the current CIA director, William Burns, talking about exactly how this was going to play out, the cyber attack on the banks.
in parallel to all this going on, the Bank of International Settlements has been running CBDC trials with partner central banks around the world. So maybe they're doing that in parallel. A cyber attacks happen, and it's like, oh, thank God we've been running this.
But I think they're going to do it a couple different ways to try and keep populations from rebelling against it in certain countries where there's a growing awareness about CBDCs. So I think it's pretty clear that direct.
So CBDCs, in case anybody doesn't know, is central bank digital currency. And so the central banks want to get it down to only their digital currency can be used. And then, you have to jump through their hoops and be approved, and you can never say anything that they don't like, or if they don't like Christians, you're your digits get clicked off, whatever. But that's what the CBDCs are.
Issue CBDCs, like as the BIS has laid out, are going to or have already happened in basically BRICS countries. So Brazil, Russia, China, it's all pretty much set up to play out that way, just as the BIS has foretold. But I think in some of these countries where the population is more wary of CBDCs or obvious centralized control of CBDCs, they're going to try and keep the two-tier system, as it exists like right now in the US, and basically have the CBDC exist, but the public doesn't necessarily interact with it, which is, essentially what FedNow is going to be, right? It's about settlements like between banks, and they'll use the CBDC, and then the public will interact instead with deposit tokens, and that'll be issued by the commercial banks, and that's what the public will interact with. And they're not called CBDCs, but they're programmable money, and they're going to run on the rails of FedNow. And it's really not that different of a system, but they can, I have my JP Morgan deposit tokens, and I have my Citibank deposit tokens, and I have my Wells Fargo deposit tokens, and it's not a CBDC, right? Well, if you look at the big banks in the US, they're all in on deposit tokens and tokenized assets. JP Morgan, all in. And they're, the banks who are the banks that run the Fed? Right. So, I mean, the most powerful Fed bank is the one in New York, right? And the main, shareholders of that bank, it's Citi and JP Morgan. And the head of JP Morgan, of course, is Jamie Dimon. And the person who essentially created Citibank, Jamie Dimon. So it's basically the same crowd that decides what goes on there. And I mean, if you've been looking at what Jamie Dimon has been saying recently, about stuff like we should seize private property for the purpose of combating climate change. You want these banks to be able to issue you programmable money. Like, it doesn't have to be a CBDC issued by the Fed to have the same consequences.
Webb's narrative unfolds further complexities involving the CIA's capabilities, as revealed by Vault 7 and WikiLeaks. The ability to attribute cyber attacks to any entity blurs the lines of accountability, creating a playground for misinformation and false flag operations. This scenario is exacerbated by cybersecurity firms.
So in other words, don't believe everything the media tells us, is because a lot of it'll be false flags, and a false flag is where somebody comes under holding a flag of so-and-so, but they're really only trying to give that country a bad name. Like, if I dressed up like a Chinaman and coming through gas on your house, well, you might, the word would get out, oh, a Chinaman did it, but it was really, bad guy over here that did it,
Firms often founded by intelligence agencies, casting doubt on the legitimacy of cyber attack attributions. Moreover, the anticipation of systemic bank failures brings our attention to the secretive conglomerations of major banks and their simulation exercises. These exercises, dating back to 2021, in collaboration with prominent financial and intelligence figures, sketch a foreboding picture of cyber attacks as a pretext for significant financial restructuring. Parallel to this, the Bank of International Settlements trials with CBDCs suggest a dual strategy of maintaining public compliance while transitioning towards a new financial paradigm. In this milieu, CBDCs emerge not merely as a technological advancement, but as a potential tool for enhanced surveillance and control, with the capability to revolutionize or further centralize power within the banking sector.
I do want to point out that, we are really in unprecedented times, and there's obviously going to be a lot of big shifts, and they're probably going to happen in the next 1 to 2 years. So that cyber attack we were talking about earlier, once that happens, they're going to push for, and they've already mapped it out, the end of both online and financial anonymity. So if you're, talking about CBDCs or any sort of CBDC equivalent system, essentially, KYC, right? That's all going to be.
KYC is know your client. So you can't do anything anonymous. Everything has to be where they can track it. And
forced on everybody for everything. And anything that doesn't have that or affords any sort of financial privacy or anonymity will be made illegal. under national security justifications. So we can expect a Cyber Patriot Act to come after this event. Yeah, that's going to have that stuff in it because they've already mapped out the policy. And then, of course, the end of online anonymity means tying a government issued ID to your internet access, and having internet access, require that at the ISP level. And that's what they've mapped out to do.
It's extremely terrifying.
The internet as you know it now will not exist after this happens, right? And you'll, what they'll say is, oh, you want to be allowed to be back online, you have to get this ID, which of course is going to be some sort of digital ID equivalent, since they're pushing for all of this with the CBDCs at the same time, right? But the goal is no anonymity period, and to have everything you do surveilled and compiled, and have AI oversee it all and do all this predictive policing, pre-crime stuff based on what you've already done and what you will do. So essentially the most important thing to do is not to participate in the system after that event. Just don't do it. So I would say if you want some of the stuff that's like on the internet now in terms of like knowledge, back that up offline. Download it, put it on hard drives, Faraday bag it, keep it, safe. Because if you might want that stuff after all this happens and you don't want to have to, get the cattle tag to be able to be online, you definitely think ahead. Because if you want to believe what the WEF says about this timeline on this stuff, which is, I would take them seriously, you've got like a year, give or take a few months before the internet gets, nuked, basically.
The prospect of a cyber attack catalyzing the end of financial and online anonymity heralds a shift towards pervasive surveillance and control, underpinned by national security concerns. The implementation of government-issued digital IDs, linked to internet access and financial transactions, may redefine privacy, freedom, and democracy as we know them. This envisioned landscape, where every action is monitored, and pre-crime algorithms determine one's threat level, raises critical questions about individual autonomy and the essence of a free society. In response, Webb advocates for proactive measures, backing up valuable digital knowledge, preparing for a more restricted online environment, and critically evaluating the systems we participate in. As we navigate these complex waters, the importance of informed discourse and collective action cannot be overstated. The intersection of cybersecurity, financial sovereignty, and personal freedom demands our attention and engagement. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. For more in-depth analysis,
So anyway, I thought that would be interesting.
Scary.
Yes. And so just a few more things, that go in line with that. I probably won't show these, but here's another video. Can you see my screen again?
Yes.
Oh, great. So here's another video, says, due in part to the defunding of police departments are now closing. So this is like Pittsburgh and some other big cities are closing from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. So, that's really the time where burglars know people are most, it's the best time because people are sound asleep by the time 3 and 4 in the morning. And so somebody breaks into your house, you pick up the phone and call the police, and they say, we're sorry, but we're closed from 3 till 7. Please leave us a message and we'll put you in the queue. But yeah, it's literally in various police departments this is going on. It was an actual news clip. Did anybody see this, that Biden supposedly flew in by airplanes, whatever, 320,000 illegals into the US. Okay, so that's been out there a little bit. Okay, so I won't show that. And there, these are just various things that is showing it's not all, one person doing this. It's all across in all forms of leadership, all different places. But there's a new law being proposed in California, with the new crime from immigration. It's AB 2031, and it's California's bold move, they say, to fund legal aid for immigrant felons. So if an immigrant beats you up and, steals stuff out of your house or whatever and commits a felony, he is accepted into this, that your taxes would be paying for, to fund legal aid. So, he can get hired attorneys paid. Doesn't matter if he's innocent or guilty, they're gonna, give him legal aid. And so my point is this is not all that stupid Biden, which they kind of want to, in my opinion, they want us to think that, this is this left-wing Biden, everything would be great if we shift over to the right wing. But when you see how pervasive this is across all banks, across all corporations, it's not one person bringing this in. It's a global net they are creating with many leaders across all industries being involved and being submitted, as seen in Rockefeller's Operation Lockstep. So this was something that he put out a while back, had it on his website and everything. And it was Operation Lockstep. It was how, as they start rolling things out, everybody has to walk in exact lockstep, no independent thinking. You follow and do what you're told. Here's a quote from Rockefeller from back in 1991. So this is way before Biden had anything to do with anything. We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings. This is the Trilateral Commission before it became, I forget what the new one is called, but can't remember, sorry.
Is that the Bilderberg?
No, but that's one of them like it. What is it that all the, and Angelina Rocker, or whatever her name is, they bring Hollywood stars in. Can't remember. Anyway, so he's saying the directors of these giant news corporations have attended our meetings and respected their promises. So they had to make promises of discretion to not reveal what they're being shown in these meetings. So it shows that they're all in it together. And then Rockefeller says it would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the work is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government. So again, this is, 30 years before Biden's president or whatever. And all of this, they're now saying, hey, we got the cat by the tail. We don't even care if you guys start talking about it now because we got everything in place. And then he says the supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite, i.e. Rockefeller and the bankers, an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to national auto-determination practice in past centuries. So he just means, that You know, you can determine which way you want to go depending on what country you're in, you know, auto determination. He says, we, the bankers, will determine things from now on for you. And here's a congressman back, and this is a congressman, so high up level person, back in 1976 said, so this again, 50 years before Biden or whatever, the drive of the Rockefellers and their allies is to create a one world government combining super capitalism and communism. So they were always working to fund communism across the globe under the same tent, all under their control, which is what we see we're coming into. Do I mean conspiracy? Yes, I do. I am convinced there is such a plot, international in scope, generations old in planning, and incredibly evil in intent. So this is a congressman saying this. It's not just a loving world government, but it's a world government that is incredibly evil in intent. And mysteriously, his plane went down, and he was killed in his plane crash. Not long after he started coming out with some of this. Now, this is less than 2 minutes, but let me play this clip. And again, it's just showing that it's not just all, you know, this bad Biden. If we get Biden out, then we'll have a whole wonderful thing. It's showing that this is media all across the world. I mean, all across the US, this clip. So let me go to that real quick here. Oops, just 1 second. Okay, here it is. So again, this is less than 2 minutes. So just, and basically what this shows is and some of you have probably seen this, but all these news networks all across the land are all puppets saying the exact same thing. So, so I'll play this clip here.
Hi, I'm Fox
and basically they're warning against people that would not speak what the news is telling us. It's people that believe there's any kind of a conspiracy, or, you know, anybody who talks that something else is going on in the world, nefarious, you know, don't believe them, believe us in the news. We'll take care of you.
Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities.
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities.
So this is hard to follow in a sense, but they're just showing clips from all these different news agencies, and they're all saying the exact word for word same thing, acting like it's not, you know, but here you'll see it.
Eastern Iowa communities.
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
We are concerned about trouble and trying to irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish fake stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
lost.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 So it's, Fox, it's everybody.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our...
And most of these people come up into the system as newscasters by being Freemasons or whatever the female counterpart is. I forget, Fire Girls or something. I forget the name of it.
Democracy.
Eastern Star.
Eastern Star. Yep.
Eastern Star.
Yes.
Eastern Star.
Eastern Star.
Yep.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
And this is why I don't listen to news, because it's extremely damaging to my mind.
Really?
Creepy people.
Yeah.
There's so many stuff happening out there. They won't put it on the news because they don't want nobody to know.
Yep. So, just along with other things that are coming in, 200 cities just signed universal basic income. So that's going to be another of those things is, so all these, hundreds of thousands of immigrants that are going to be coming in, and meth people and everybody else who just don't want to work, they're going to be given an income, but it's going to come from everybody who works. So everybody who pays taxes is going to have to pay for all this. So again, it would not be one person that could control all those different news networks. Just think of the power someone has to be able to say, this is what all you different news networks are going to say it exactly like this and like you mean it. There's a high force that rides above all these people and that is changing all these laws and doing all these things. And this is a New York City about the illegals, the immigrants. They're offering them a free plane or bus tickets out of town. So just think of that. They come in illegally, but they're going to buy you a plane ride. You want to go to California, you want to go to Washington. But the funny thing is that out of 170,000 migrants in New York, only 30 immigrants a day are accepting the flight or bus out of town, the free trip, because they're saying, hey, we got a chance of getting better benefits here. So no, we don't want to live. And we've got our community of migrants here. So we don't want to leave New York. But they're starting to throw them out of the shelter after they've been in there for 30 days. So they don't necessarily, what's that, John?
2 months, not 30 days.
Oh, well, this news article said 30 days. They said 14 days if you're single. And then you're cast out of the shelter. And what are these people going to do? The only way they can get money, and living in New York is expensive. So the crime is going to go way up. And this is what they want, close down the police, crime goes up. But it's just showing, what's happening. And here is another deal. And believe it or not, this is a true story. I'll play this one, a few minutes of it. Canadian police are urging citizens to avoid conflict with armed robbers by leaving their keys at the front door. So they're saying these armed robbers are wanting to break in and steal cars. So it's best if you leave your key fob in an envelope by the front door, then they can just break in, take the key fob, and they won't have to bother you, you know.
Oh,
Can you believe that?
it's ridiculous.
It's hard to believe.
You know, Alec,
Yeah, John?
now, I had thought about it. And let's say the police station closed from what time to that time. And that's when a lot of people gonna come out at that time to start doing something real stupid before they open again. You know what I mean?
Right.
We have to like I don't know, man. It's a lot of people. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be real hard. What they need to do, send all the people back home where they came from. But they're not gonna do that.
Yeah, well, the thing would have been to not allow them in. You know, we know how to, have borders. We've always had borders, and it's never been legal. But now they've completely made it legal. They encourage them. They give them free money. And again, it's these higher powers that are doing it for their own reasons. But let me do another share screen here.
And everything going up because the more people come in, everything keeps going up, going up.
Yeah, that's another part of it. So let me play this. It's just a couple minutes. This will amaze you.
You're about to watch is the very.
Oh, wait, did I hit? Can you hear this? Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear it.
Very reason why you give up your 2A rights.
Okay,
and
good.
depend on the government to keep you safe, because when that time comes for them to keep you safe, this is what they tell you.
Toronto police advised residents there that if they have their key fobs for their vehicles in a Faraday pouch, to leave that at the front door so that if thieves are brazen enough to break in, they can just kind of grab it and go.
To prevent. So these newscasters are kind of acting like, oh, this is a smart thing to do. You can keep your, they're not saying how stupid this is. They're saying, oh, this really makes sense, kind of like.
Their vehicles in a Faraday pouch, to leave that at the front door so that if thieves are brazen enough to break in, they can just kind of grab it and go.
To prevent the possibility of being attacked in your home, leave your fobs at your front door. Just because they're breaking into your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else. A lot of them that they're arresting have guns on them, and they're not toy guns, they're real guns. They're loaded.
I mean, he's right, but a lot of people are upset saying, what? Like, are you giving up on trying to catch these guys? Like, it's creating quite a furor.
It is, and I want to explain a little bit of the context as well, because what they're saying is if you put your key in a Faraday pouch, this is like basically a signal blocker. I'm not a tech expert, but some of these
It's
thieves,
a heavy pouch.
Exactly, and some of these thieves are doing relay attacks. So they're using a device, they're coming in, and they are then extending the signal of your fob to steal your car. But if they are not able to use that device because you've got it in a Faraday pouch and they're brazen enough to break in, police are saying just minimize the contact. A lot of them have guns.
Definitely, and it's terrorizing people.
A police officer telling people to leave their keys closer to the front door so that criminals don't have to walk too far to steal their keys?
It's insane.
While you're at it, why not tell people to leave your debit card with your PIN number next to the door also? Or better yet, why not also leave a pair of AKT1 blackout wireless Bluetooth in-ear hearing protection next to the keys so that if they ever have to try this shit in Texas, they can protect their hearing while listening to their favorite R&B songs while they're getting shot at by the Texas homeowner. Matter of fact, while you're at it, head over to shop.mrcoleonnoir.com or just click the link in the description section and grab yourself a pair of these AKT1 blackout in-ear hearing protection, which are my absolute favorite, so that you can start using them at the gun range because you're going to be there quite a bit more once you realize that you probably shouldn't give up your 2A rights. Now, I can't be the only one that notices that every idea that the government has to keep you safe involves making it easier for the criminals to victimize you. And it's not just Canada, it's in the US too. If criminals are robbing people at gunpoint, ban concealed carry so the criminals don't have to deal with armed citizens.
The governor today said she was expecting pushback, but she held her ground as she announced a 30-day ban on open and concealed carry laws in Bernalillo County.
If criminals are committing too much crime for the police to handle, respond to less 911 calls.
So when there's a event that doesn't require, it's not in progress, we're going to take and reroute that call to our telephone reporting unit, which will be operational from 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. And then the hours from 3 a.m. to 7, those calls queued up for the person that comes in at 7 a.m. to take the reports in the morning.
This is the goofiest advice I've heard come from someone who's supposed to be keeping people safe. But what's goofier are the people surprised by all of this. I'm sorry, you thought you could do this?
Today, our national freeze on handguns is coming into force.
So this guy, remember, is a WEF graduate. So they put they don't need many. They put them in all, the countries. And then that's the leader of the country, Trudeau here. He's a graduate of WEF, Klaus Schwab.
It is no longer legal to buy, sell, or transfer a handgun in Canada.
And this?
It is no longer permitted to buy, sell, transport, import, or use military-grade assault weapons in this country.
And the criminals would just lay down their arms and what? Become priests instead of becoming more emboldened now that they know most people won't have guns?
Where I'm a changed man. But I ain't like that no more. I'm a changed man. You were right, I was wrong.
If you haven't figured out by now that the government's idea of keeping you safe is to make you a good victim, you're either not paying attention or you're brainwashed by ideology that has you thinking there's some perverted sense of morality in being a victim. I mean, just listen to this logic. The police are telling you to put your keys at the front of your house because the criminals just want your cars. But if the criminals just wanted the car, why the do they have guns? If not to use the said guns to kill you if you don't willingly give up your car. Yet everyone wants to clutch their pearls when they find out that you can use deadly force to protect property in Texas. If criminals are willing to use deadly force to take property, why are we shaming people for being willing to use deadly force to protect it? Stop giving your 2A rights away for the perception of safety. The government and criminals are two sides of the same coin, fighting over who gets to hold the monopoly over violence and control over all the normies in the
That's about right,
middle, who don't understand that the document they're so willing to get rid of is the same document telling you that you have the power to protect yourself. You have the right and duty to protect yourself, and no government or criminal has the right to take that right from you. But we just give it away so willingly because we think we're happier living under safe oppression instead of dangerous freedom. Well, we're less free than we've ever been. And I don't see a lot of happy people. Oh, and do me this one favor. You see that subscribe button?
So anyway, I hope some of that was interesting for you. Let me see. This guy was kind of interesting. It's just less than a minute here, I think. It's kind of a good news one. This guy really had the bravery to talk about the Lord on the national sports media. So I thought it was kind of a good news thing. Just take a quick minute. So, they always interview these NBA players and football players after a game. Well, this guy, kind of used that time to talk about the Lord. So I thought it was pretty sweet.
trusting my shot, trusting my work.
It's made a big viral, thing on the internet, so it's kind of funny.
And it's paying off. And I give all the glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for giving me these gifts and, just being able to, glorify him in heaven.
Yes, get back to 66 and 112 points. That's half of them. You and Kate tonight. How much did play?
Continuing to stay with it and just play hard. And, I'm really, really excited for us, really excited that we got a win tonight, but most importantly, the growth was there tonight.
Pretty good.
Oh, before we leave, I just wanted to just kind of, first, I just want to say that Jesus is the way, the truth, the life, and to any of, the world that's hearing this message, the kingdom of heaven is near. Jesus is coming back, and we all have to repent for our sins, and we have to put our faith in Jesus. He will come back when you least expect it, and it's time to wake up if you haven't put your faith in Jesus Christ.
I thought that was pretty amazing when I came across that. Does anybody have any comments or anything to share? I'll just keep going with this next section. If not, so this is an email I got today. If anybody's interested in signing up for this email, let me know. It's this guy it's called the second smartest guy in the world at substack.com. If anybody wants to sign up for his email, I found him to be very accurate. Anyway, this one, he's talking about the PSYOP with Elon Musk. Remember, we've in the Great Reset, we've studied a lot about Elon Musk and SpaceX and his kid's name X and naming Twitter X, and his mom being in the Illuminati also. But anyway, so he's last week, this Substack published an article linking PSYOP Musk to the biometric border, which was kind of what Whitney Webb was talking about, that they want to do biometrics to, surveil and control everybody. The biometric border, AI, Trump, and the usual technocrat suspects wanting to impose a great reset global police state. So this is his article. I'll just read a little bit here. But an illegitimate federal government is wholly captured. Leftist cities are completely under enemy control. And in the inkiest shadows, criminal entities like the United Nations, World Economic Forum, and the intelligence industrial complex are carefully running all of these disposable penetrator politician puppets. Politicians are kind of like those, I mean, a lot of them anyway. There's still a few rare good ones, but for the most part, they're like those people on the news that we saw. So here he says, PSYOP Musk has recently, for all intents and purposes, become a staunch Trump supporter ahead of the 2024 election. We know, as per the above article, that Trump will be pushing the biometric border wall. And that's something you'll always see, whether it's the left or the right, when it's something that the controlling dark side wants, both sides will be in agreement, like the vaccines and now this biometric border wall. instead of building an actual wall that keeps invaders out, it'll be this biometric one, which will serve as nothing more than a rollout of an all-pervasive biometric spy grid to ensnare all Americans. So it's just a heads up so that we're not deceived along with the rest of the world when we see these things being rolled out, which is precisely why PSYOP Musk has been activated to busily post on X the following. So this is an Elon Musk post, showing that he's, the media, they portray, the evil media. So he's our guy that's fighting against the media, and they're giving us leaders that are really from them. Like Elon is also a WEF graduate, just like the head of Canada. And so they get placed in these positions. The media's, so he says, Elon says, the media is lying about Donald Trump with this narrative about a bloodbath if he loses the election. He was clearly talking about the car manufacturing industry before and after he used the word. And so, apparently the media is taking Trump's words out of context. So like here it says, Trump says there will be a bloodbath if he doesn't get elected in November as he campaigns. So, they create this fake war between Trump and Elon and the media, fighting for us against the evil media. So he calls this the politics kabuki theater, keeps on distracting, and these mini news cycle psyops. So that's what they do, is they've got all they keep rolling out one psyop after the next, certainly sway large enough swaths of the voters, with PSYOP Musk addressing the mockingbird mainstream media as if he is some kind of outsider renegade. So that's kind of how he's portrayed as this, these outsiders are fighting the deep state for us, and we need to all get behind them. That way, we're in their camp, no matter which way we go, whether we're for the left or for the right, fighting the media, we're in their, group. So Elon says, yep, hoax making in progress, and it's surprisingly effective. So then this guy writing the article says, a hoax calling the hoax a hoax is sadly surprisingly effective. Before we delve into the latest deep state genius puppet news, a bit of context into this taxpayer-funded welfare tech empire may go a long way. So he kind of goes into and shows how Musk was placed in office and he's funded by our taxes, are, going to these people, and then they become our leaders, the leaders of the right. So here's Musk with his mom over here, and I don't know who this is, and here's Klaus Schwab in the background. As many mindlessly celebrate Musk's Twitter acquisition, they fail to appreciate the greater psyop at play here. Elon Musk is quite literally a CIA creation. He made all of his money from the taxpayers when he sells his inflated stock that was made possible by ZEV credits, grants, tax breaks, and other corporate, and then you can keep following that story. As this purported richest man in the world and free speech absolutist, certainly failed the IQ test of life if one believes that he actually subjected himself to the slow kill bioweapons that he was adamantly supporting at the height of the PSYOP 19 pandemic. So he was all, pushing the vaccines, is what this guy is saying. So here's a tweet by Elon from back then. to be clear, I do support vaccines in general and COVID vaccines specifically. The science is unequivocal. In very rare cases, there is an allergic reaction, but this is easily addressed with an EpiPen. So in other words, it's just showing, you know, they're all on the same page on things that are important to the controllers. You know, some additional color on how Psyop Musk was running drugs, presumably with the CIA's participation via his friendly Tesla facility conveniently located on the southern border. And so here he goes, Psyop Musk on Tucker Carlson. So where he's portrayed as, you know, this renegade, you know, kind of thing. And, you know, Tucker Carlson is another that comes from big wealth and is made to be as if he's a renegade. You know, he's our leader on the right. This Substack, anyway, that another article you could go into if anybody wanted, but this Substack has previously exposed Elon Musk as a deep state creation. This is the man that was funded by theft via taxes, who laundered stocks in order to acquire Twitter, and whose fortune really went parabolic due to the pandemic. Last night, Musk was rolled out on Tucker Carlson's show to further demonstrate his pro-human stance. Anyway, I won't go into those articles, but just as this Substack predicted almost a year ago in the above article, Tucker Carlson was absorbed into the X social media website upon his Fox ouster. So a lot of times, you know, they'll oust someone so it looks like he's, you know, boy, he was fighting against Fox. He's really for us. And so he's become a part of this team now with Elon, and is now essentially exclusively broadcasting from Musk's platform. But it gets even better. According to a recent Reuters report, Elon Musk signed $1.8 billion contract in 2021 with National Reconnaissance Office to launch a system of orbiting surveillance satellites. So it's portrayed as if this is independent, fighting for us, Musk, but then at the right time, he turns and the government, that way it doesn't look like they're building out these satellite surveillance deals.
Alex.
Yeah, Lynn?
Oh my gosh. So today, you know, I'm an avid sky watcher, right? I post on chemtrails and geoengineering. So today over my area, Kent, like at least 15 chemtrails back and forth, all on the same trail, not spread out, not, you know, they weren't spread out. And it was very odd because I watched the skies like I'm a hawk, you know, I watch the skies. These chemtrails went back and forth, and then all of a sudden, because they put out quite a layer, but it wasn't really turning white. It wasn't the aluminum white. It has stayed relatively clear today, except I know what I'm seeing. I don't think the average eye is going to know what they're seeing, but I can see the white, but it's higher up there. Anyway, I'm looking and I see this shiny object. And at first I thought, okay, it's a high up plane. It didn't have any chemtrails coming out, spray lines. So I thought, well, it could be a jet flying high over our region. It was starting from the west, but it never really went anywhere. It stayed right where it was at, and it was going very, very slow. and it made a big circle. But you couldn't see it very well because the atmosphere was so heavily layered with what they had just sprayed. So it was really masking it, but as it turned and turned and turned, I could see the sun reflecting on its body. And so all I have is an iPhone 14, I think. I don't use anything fancy. So I took a video of it, and because how I can't see, I wasn't for sure if I was getting it, but I did get some of it. And so I took my screenshots off of the video and I enlarged them, and they were, what I pulled up, now this is quite a distance up there, was the shape of an SR-71 Blackbird. It wasn't, and that's a reconnaissance plane. It's a spy plane. I don't know if you guys know about the SR-71 Blackbirds, but I mean, they've been around for a long time, and they're not picked up by radar, military. That's why they're used for spying. So this thing is in the enlargement of this black dot is the shape of what an SR-71 wing would look like. It was quite odd because after all of this spraying, they put this thing up there that's hovering over, and the only thing I could figure out, because I don't know, you don't know what the government's doing, but whatever they're doing, it's no good, It made me think that because they were putting down different types of layers of chemicals, because I could see where some of them were long trails, some of them were short trails, and then one of the jets in mid spray just turned off his sprayers altogether. So that told me he had delivered his load. So they were delivering different payloads, and I think what this plane was probably doing was investigating like how the layers of what these chemicals were that they were, or heavy elements that they were putting down, how they were able to spy through it or penetrate through it, look through it, because even today looking out there, it's still relatively blue, but I just stepped outside and there's literally two planes crossing paths with each other right out my front door. Still, they've just been heavily spraying us for days now. But I thought that was really strange that I picked up some sort of a craft that was not a geoengineering spray plane,
Yeah,
it was definitely a craft.
It's amazing, it's definitely a multifaceted thing. And, we know they're getting ready for lying wonders. So it's hard to tell what tests and what all they're doing, but
oh yeah, we can't possibly know.
Yeah.
But it's no good because none of what they're spraying is to our benefit. But they'll say it's to block interceptors, like China or Russia's planes from their missiles from getting into our airspace, so they can't see us. It's like when all this stuff settles, then what? It's a bunch of hogwash, but people buy into it, and then people just say, well, that's a contrail. But there's no such thing as contrails. I will tell you that on my life. There's no such thing as a contrail. Those are long ago. Plane engines are different now because I'm an avid plane watcher and I know these things. I've been watching for years. But those sprayers today, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all on the same trail. They weren't spreading out. They kept the same trail overhead. Like I could look at the branches on my tree where I was video recording them, and the same planes would go through the exact same branches of my tree. I'm just sitting still, and here comes another plane. Okay, that goes right through that branch. Here comes another plane in the opposite direction, right through that branch. So they were literally crossing the same path consistently. That to me was really unusual. I don't often see that. They spread out quite a ways, and then they cross section, east, west, north, south, but they weren't doing that today. It was all north, south. It's still north, south right now. So
Yeah,
it was interesting.
And like it says here, Washington, Reuters, March 16th. So, just yesterday, SpaceX is building a network of hundreds of spy satellites under a classified contract with a U.S. intelligence agency. 5 sources familiar with the program said, demonstrating deepening ties between billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk's space company and national security, quote, agencies. So yeah, they're definitely building out a grid, and it's not because they love us and because they care for, you know, the immigrants.
No.
The network is being built by SpaceX Starshield business unit under a 1.8 billion contract signed by a couple years ago with the National Reconnaissance Office, an intelligence agency that manages spy satellites, the sources said. The plans show the extent of SpaceX's involvement in U.S. intelligence and military projects. Anyway, I'm going to skim down here and finish up.
I just sent the group the shiny object. The first one is I sent the group a picture of the enlarged off my screenshot from the video, how I enlarged it, and then I took a screenshot. And then the second one was, it looks basically like a blue screen, but if you look just about mid-center and you go to about 3:20 p.m., just pretty close to the center, you're going to see a shiny object. So if you touch on that picture and enlarge it, you'll just see this tiny object that I just saw making a very slow circle around this area. It wasn't a big circle. It was a very small circle. Looking up in the sky, I don't think it even spread out more than an inch. You know, with my naked eye looking at it, it wasn't going anywhere. Is what I'm saying. It was very, very slow. And because I'm an avid plane watcher and I know planes pretty well now, I sit at SeaTac and I watch airplanes all the time. I'm watching this plane and I know what I'm seeing and I know speed, and I'm like, that's not, a plane isn't going anywhere. That thing's not going fast. You know, it should have been out of the area in a matter of, 30 seconds. It should have really gone across my sky, and it didn't. And then I kept seeing the sun reflecting off of it, but because the atmosphere was so layered with the chemicals or the heavy material that they had laid down, I couldn't see it constantly. So if I took my eyes off of it, I'd have to wait for the sun to catch a wing again to reflect off of it.
So we'll take a look at that.
It was really, really, yeah. I just sent it to the group. But anyway, so.
We'll take a look at that. Just finishing with this Twitter thing and how these agencies were behind it, knowing that for a period of about 10 years, beginning in 2012, USG DHS essentially operated inside the platform of Twitter for the purposes of controlling public opinion. So that's what they're really good at. I find it very challenging to believe the relationship with DHS, I think that's Department of Homeland Security, FBI, HHS, USIC, along with the Pentagon and State Department, just ended after Musk purchased the platform. So that's a joke. It's all the same agencies, same groups, with Musk being a picture of independence. One could make a compelling argument the purchase of Twitter held an ancillary benefit and protected the USIC from revelations that would not be controlled by any other process. Long before the Twitter files were released under tight controls, the structure of Jack's Magic Copy Shop was increasingly visible. I skipped some of the articles, so sorry. Beyond the Twitter files, the COVID-19 pandemic revealed just how much control the government held over the platform. A 1.8 billion USG contract buys a lot of symbiosis and influence. So here's, the government controlling, these Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. This latest space exploit of breaking out the global satellite surveillance network for an illegitimate U.S. intel agency slots perfectly into the upcoming aforementioned biometric spy system, which will then be marketed as X Everything app, a social credit system kind of deal, where you get points, based on, if you're a part of the system, and if you question anything, or you're not what those news media people all said, if you're one of those people that they warn about, then your social score is going to be real low, and people aren't going to want to connect with you on social media or whatever. So, conclusion, with the tornado of lies and deception swirling around us, there will be peace in the center of the storm if we are anchored to the Lord and anchored to God's word. Like the 5 wise virgins, we need to keep our lights burning and keep spare oil of the Holy Spirit within us at all times. And I'll close with this one story of how they let the paralytic man down in through the ceiling. So Luke 5:17, and it came about one day that he was teaching, and there were some Pharisees and teachers of the law sitting there, who had come from every village of Galilee and Judea, from Jerusalem. So think of this, how amazing the Lord was, that all these Pharisees and teachers of the law would come, and this was a long walk to up to Galilee, and these Pharisees and teachers of the law were coming from Galilee, Judea, and Jerusalem to hear what he was saying. And the power of the Lord was present for him to perform healing. And that's going to be with us up ahead, and now even. But I think it's going to increase as the body of Christ comes together, and as we make the Lord the head, and as he is flowing within us, the healings, it's going to shock us, I think. It hasn't even entered the heart of man what God has prepared for those that love him. Verse 18, and behold, some men were carrying on a bed a man who was paralyzed, and they were trying to bring him in and to set him down in front of him, and not finding any way to bring him in because of the crowd. So there's this great crowd of people around this house, around the front door and inside. They went up on the roof and let him down through the tiles with his stretcher right in the center in front of Jesus. And seeing their faith, he said, friend, your sins are forgiven you. And the scribes and Pharisees began to reason, saying, who is this man who speaks blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone? And Jesus, aware of their reasonings, answering and said to them, why are you reasoning in your hearts? Which is easier to say, your sins have been forgiven you, or to say, rise and walk? But in order that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins, he says to the paralytic, I say to you, rise and take up your stretcher and go home. And at once he rose up before them, this crippled man, and took up what he had been lying on and went home, glorifying God. And they were all seized with astonishment and began glorifying God, and they were filled with fear, saying, we have seen remarkable things this day. So these people that had come from miles and miles away were just in shock and saying, "We have seen remarkable things today." And in the parallel passage in Matthew 9:1, it says, after the man got healed, but when the multitude saw this, they were filled with awe and they glorified God who had given such authority to men. So that's going to how it's going to be out ahead as God's power is poured out. People are going to glorify God that he has given such power to men, such authority. And then in the other one, other parallel passage in Mark, they said they were glorifying God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." So anyway, those are the things that I had for today. Thank you for your patience. And I hope that was interesting, some of those news clips and different things, but I was trying to make the point, as the scriptures, trying to back up the scriptures by what we see happening in the world. So
pay attention to what they call climate change, because all of that involves the taking of land.
Yeah.
And the destruction of farmers and crops and cattle, just like we saw in Texas. That was all fires that were made by directed energy weapons. And I just listened to a farmer just say they could not believe the winds that they were experiencing. And then he said, and then all of a sudden it just switched direction. He said, and this is a farmer talking, he said, "I've never seen anything like that in my life." While they're opening every gate they can to get their cattle, just to let their cattle loose, basically, because they were trying to escape the flames and they couldn't herd their cattle any longer. And the winds were in one direction. He said, all of a sudden, these winds just did an about face and were going the other direction. He said, "I've never seen anything like that." It's like, that is a directed energy attack.
Yeah.
And that's why they killed these cattle, just, burned them to death. And then they just wipe out the farmer, and he can't replace that. He can't replace that for his livelihood. So then they destroy the cattle. They want everybody eating bugs. Let's not get onto that topic just yet, but they want everybody. You start looking at your labels and start looking up what those strange words are on your labels for food, because they've got bug farms in the Netherlands like crazy. I just got this information. Huge bug farms in the Netherlands where they grow the bugs to grind them up to put them in the food. They want people eating bugs. It's just so satanic what they're doing with the food industry.
Yeah, and they had those fires in Maui and Texas and California, and and there were bizarre things where something that should have burned wasn't burned, and then other things that shouldn't have melted from the heat, like cars and things, were completely melted. So they're saying, what could have caused this?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Hey, good class out. Good class out today.
Thank you, Steve. But anyway, I wanted to close on a good note and just say that, the Holy Spirit is with us. Yeah, there's a lot of evil going on, but the bride is being made ready and being formed. And we want to keep our eyes on the Lord and what he is doing also, but not be ignorant of the enemy's devices, but to keep our spirits up in his holy presence and where his love is for each one of us. So I'll close, but Lord bless each one, and thank you all, and thank you again, Lynn, for that wonderful prayer this morning. That was awesome. I guess it wasn't this. I guess it wasn't this morning.
Thank
but,
you.
Lord,
Yeah.
help Alex with his brain damage in Jesus' name.
I was doing
not
good
Saturday.
until that one. I messed up again. You're
Well,
right.
you said this morning, and you also said Saturday. So
I know.
You're striking out here, Alex.
I know.
One more, and you need to go to bed.
Yeah.
I better
But we will
go
keep
rest.
praying
You're
for
right.
for sure. You should
Yeah.
go rest. All right. God
Okay,
bless you guys. I'm gonna go watch
Thank
a
you.
9/11 Truth Zoom meeting with Captain Dan Hanley. He's phenomenal. Gotta go watch this right now. He's doing a live show.
Okay, well, Lord
You want
bless
to know
each
about
one.
9/11?
Everybody have a good week.
Thank you, Al.
Okay,
bye.
Love you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Not everybody.
Have a good week. Have a good week.
Lord bless. Good luck with that tomato plant, Mary Catherine.
Love you, Al. Thank you.
Love you, Lori. Thank you much.
Okay.
See you, John.
Bye.
Al, I just had our visitors we had this week. Our visitors this week were Barb Pfaff, Barb Richards.
Yeah.
Was here, and Jan Cole.
Oh, wow.
Jan Westerlin.
Right.
And Rebecca Shields was here. These are all together, but Chrissy Drake.
Wow, you've had some great visitors there.
Here. I guess that was it. Lita and Rick Thomas. I don't know if you know them.
Oh yeah, Lita, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. She lives in Arizona, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, she's a really neat person. I remember her from
She
Bible
is. Yeah,
college.
she is. Yeah. So she was there. She came when Barb Pfaff was here.
Okay. Oh, that is fun.
So we've been having lots and lots of company. It's been fun.
There's a lot of people there in Arizona that we know, so that's great.
There are. And some of these people, like Barb Pfaff, she lives in Idaho. Rebecca Shields lives over, I think, on the peninsula there. I think she lives up, above Seattle there. I mean, I'm thinking it's the peninsula. I can't remember where they live. And yeah, and then Chrissy Drake's actually moving. She's in the process of moving. So she was on a stop here, moving back to Seattle from Texas.
Oh, cool.
So
I remember meeting Jan Cole. I hadn't seen her for a long time. I think it was at Debbie Mullen's house.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
So they're friends. Yeah, they're friends.
They're good friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Jan's doing good.
Oh, good. She's a neat lady.
And actually, Rick lives near too, and they are friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yep.
Very cool.
So anyway, interesting week.
Yeah, thank you for the update. Appreciate that.
But I just mentioned because you know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, pass a hello on to John too for me.
I will. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, Lord bless and see you soon.
Bye, John.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye, John.